What's going on, everybody? Good evening. Good evening. Hey,
Good.
we're
How
live.
you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good, good, good. Let me fade out of the story, which slaps, I should say. Uh, Throw on our theme real quick. What's up, man?
Not much. Chilling.
It's a
All right,
pleasure to finally connect since Croatia, man.
I know. It seems like yesterday and like years ago at the same time.
I know.
Like a weird combination of both.
I know, man. How you doing?
Good. Just relaxing here on what is it, a Friday? I'm kind of
No idea.
confused on what day of the
I
week
have
it
no
is.
idea. And the funny thing is that I've been bouncing between the time zones so much since we started doing this.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Just we were in Edmonton, I guess a couple of days ago, and then we were in Brooklyn a couple of nights before that. So now we're in Dallas.
alrighty.
What you sipping on, man?
You're at home in Brooklyn?
I'm in LA, man. Did you
Oh,
know?
LA.
Yeah, yeah. I live in LA now. Sam is in Ridgewood.
Oh,
Yeah, he's in Ridgewood. But yeah, I moved out to LA. Gosh, July 2019. Yeah. And I love it, man. I love it, man. After a whole entire life of living, I guess, in Chicago for 16 years, and then living in, St. Louis and DC, and then ultimately Brooklyn for 10 years.
yeah.
I really appreciate palm trees, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't miss living. I mean, it's fine visiting winter, but I don't miss living in real winter.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. It's funny, my kids, they brag to like their neighbor who has basically lived in LA all his life. They're like, "Oh, you've never seen snowballs for real. Like you've never played with snow." And I'm like, "Y'all was scared of snow just a year ago." But now they're pros because they're the New York kids in LA. So it is what it is, man. What are you sipping on tonight?
I got some green tea.
Mm.
I went for some Japanese. I forget what brand. I don't know. I'm usually more of a coffee person,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I figured I'd.
the first two sets I did teas. Tonight I'm doing coffee. Hates a hot product, but a Starbucks Christmas blend.
No,
It's quite delicious though. It's got a little spicy undertone. I appreciate it.
I ran out of. I'm a coffee person. I realized ran out. Well, I got some beans that I could grind up, but I don't really like the one. Like I have some Derrick Carter coffee and some DJ Heather coffee.
What?
Like they have their own lines of coffee
Are you
in
serious?
Chicago. Yeah,
I need to get those right now.
yeah. Like, let me. I'll grab it really quick. It's worth showing.
Yeah, please, please, please. Let's hawk all the product. Oh man. Yeah, no, I would absolutely love to get down on that. We've been buying
Hi, kitties.
some California-based coffee brands, but
Either you got your
oh yeah,
Derrick Carter blend, and then the DJ Heather. You need your
oh yeah,
Chicago coffee going
oh
on
yeah.
there.
I need that. I need that in my life.
Although I must say, with these I'm kind of a dark coffee person, so I like it really
Same.
dark. Like I'm kind of a French roast guy, so I kind of just I've had these. It's more of like collector. Like I just like having it.
Yeah.
I only use them if I'm out of the other coffee. I'm trying to keep them saved.
What age did you start drinking coffee?
When I started going to San Francisco, I had never had coffee ever until, I mean, this was 94 or so. I think I started having coffee because coffee was a thing in San Francisco in the 90s. But
Yeah.
Chicago, we didn't even really hang out in, there was one coffee shop we would go to in San Francisco because a friend worked there, but I would never think of getting coffee until I was in San Francisco. So, then eventually I got I have an espresso machine that I use. So
Okay.
I'm making my own espresso in the morning. I'm an espresso person now. Oh boy, hold on, my cat's on the mixer.
Cool. Shout out, check out these comments. Dream Machine. Hello, DJ Cam Jam. Hey, cat. What's your cat's name?
This is Bubby.
Bubby.
We have a
Okay.
couple. I have 3 actually. The other one's over here on the speaker. You can
Oh,
see him.
squad. Okay.
He sits on that. It's like a little hammock on the
Is that is
speaker.
that a is that a she or
They're both he's.
both
There is
he's?
a
Yeah.
girl somewhere.
He's
There's a,
got his bodega stance down.
yeah, he's a troublemaker. He keeps wanting to jump like behind the mixer cords and be in all the cords. I'm like, God damn it, stop it.
But you know what though? At some point, that sounds like a children's cartoon that should happen. Cat that
But he'll
always
do
gets in
it like,
trouble in the studio. I don't know.
I've tried to block strategically every pathway back there, but he still gets back there like he.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I,
So that's my battle.
I mean, they're if you ever watch them in the bodegas, man, they know how to move through a labyrinth. They absolutely do. Chi-Town, what up? Joyce 29. What's happening? Wicked coffee game. I love it. I love it. Yeah. No, man. What would you be doing right now if we were not live?
Well, initially this weekend I was gonna play actually, and I ended up canceling just because with COVID stuff I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I could have been in Florida and Texas. Like last night would have been Florida. I guess tonight would have been Florida, and then tomorrow I was supposed to play here in Dallas. But I'm just not too comfortable yet with COVID clubbing. You know, Texas and Florida are pretty much open. You know, and
Yeah.
like I went out to, there's a club here, It'll Do, it's called, that has guests, like Derek was there about a month ago or so, and who else was just there? They got a variety of people, like Gene Ferris was just there, and
Where is that in the like in the Deep Ellum area?
no, it's a little off the beaten path. It's
Okay.
like East Dallas, it's called.
Okay, got it.
So I went and saw Derek. I don't know, I'm still a little uncomfortable with COVID clubbing. It's like they say it's like 75% capacity, but the only way you would tell that it's not normal is just people have masks on. It seemed normal crowded to me, and people are drinking, and you can have your mask off to drink, obviously.
I can't.
So,
I'm gonna be honest, man. I can't see it for myself, man. Anytime soon, man. And I got.
yeah,
It's not even. Yeah, like honestly, I'm sitting around spending my time racking my brain these days about just unique ways to kind of set up virtual performances. I don't know if you've seen, but I play with green screens a lot. You know what I mean? So
okay.
I'm thinking about things like that. How to put artists in the club, physically in the club.
Yeah.
Well, not physically, but virtually in the club, so to speak. Things
Gotcha.
like that. So yeah, because I can't even play with it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I like doing the stream thing and that, but like I said, I went like Derek played, and I hadn't seen Derek in a while, Carter, and I figure I got to go say hey to him. And
Yep.
But I admit it was hard to last at the club for like an hour. Seemed like forever. I was in the corner,
watching everybody, worried about everybody.
Then for a whole week after, I was like stressed out. I'm like, did I get COVID at the club?
Bruh.
It wasn't really worth it. And I don't want to knock on, I know there's like a lot of, people get upset at clubs that are open and people going out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to knock on anybody. It's not for me personally. And that's how
absolutely.
I feel.
Absolutely.
If someone else digs it, that's cool.
Everybody's trying to figure out a way to, either get by or financially get by. The everybody's impacted so hard by it all. So, I get it, but to, play at your own risk.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, clubs got bills, everybody's got bills. So, but for me personally, if I can wait it out, hold on, I sense trouble. What are you doing? he like jumps on the speaker and then like launches down into the chords.
That's hilarious.
I don't have my squirt. If I have my squirt bottle. So yeah, I decided, and I'm a single parent, so
okay.
It's just like I'm knock on wood. I was gigging. I saved some money. I didn't know I was going to need it now. Like it was saved for a later date, but I can get by for a bit. And yeah, just being out, it was just it just wasn't fun like to be out clubbing. So tomorrow I was supposed to play all night, like 9 to 2, which in normal circumstance would be fun, but because I thought about it, I'm like, it was hard to last an hour at Derek. I'm like, how am I going to do 5 hours in the same,
Yep.
So I just decided, I'm not ready.
I can dig
But
it.
normally, I mean, I guess COVID stuff, I'm just chilling. Like like I said, I'm a single parent. My kid's 10, but
Okay.
he's at school at the moment, so he stays. Well, he wants to stay up late. Like he wants to stay at 11 is late to him. He's like
That's what
tries to
mine are.
stay up late. He's like, I don't
Yeah.
have school right now. Well, because he's on break. He's like,
Yeah.
come on, let me stay up late. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, 10 is a good time to go to bed, I think.
Did he make it up? Did he stay up past, or did he make it to midnight last night?
Yeah, well, we both fell asleep a little, and then we woke up before
Okay.
midnight. So, and then we went out. There's this tower here that they have fireworks off of. And it was pretty crowded out, actually. The weather was it's not good. It wasn't really good weather for Dallas. It was
Okay.
cold and rainy, but there's a lot of people out.
Yeah.
So it was fun. This is actually the first New Year's I've been with. He's 10. I've never hung out with him on a New Year's Eve because I'm always working.
Wow. Always at a gig, right? Yeah.
So I think he liked it.
I bet.
Like
I bet. I bet.
How old are you? Say you have kids?
Yeah, I've got two. I've got a 7 and a 6. My 7 will be 8 in about 3 months. But
Okay.
yeah, so it's I'm kind of perpetually always just in this balance of like I do a lot of digital work. So I mean, outside of course the music stuff, I'm a designer. I do web development, work in tech, product design, the whole thing. And so kind of balancing that space between like being glued to my laptop, or trying to write. It's funny, like they judge my devices differently. So if I'm, this is at least what I figured out. If I'm on my phone, I look like I'm playing. If I'm on my tablet, they trust it. And if they believe that I could be doing, research, taking notes, in all of the above, a book, anything. And then if I'm on a laptop, they genuinely they're like, you're working too hard, Daddy. You're doing too much. So when I need to like sneak and write or like, and when I say sneak, I mean basically like sit amongst them, but like not have them constantly trying to daddy, 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 when I need to do that, it's the tablet. So just these little cultural hacks that you figure out to, to, keep the peace and keep the love, man. But
yeah,
it's just such a unique time, and I, for all of the struggle and all of the stress of it, as a parent, I really appreciate the fact that like, if you have the resources, like you can really kind of set your kids up to, like these kids are going to be super advanced. I feel like, compared to, of course, what we were, but then even just the generations right before them, like the littlest kids who are having to figure out this digital tech, the digital spaces and the virtual spaces and all of that. It's going to be limitless for them. You know what I mean? In a couple years, assuming that everything emotionally was structured decently. Like,
has your schools been open there at all, or no? They've been closed.
Yeah, they're closed. They've got the they've got what they call a hybrid system for certain schools that cater to like to special needs student groups and things like that. And so some of those spaces have figured out how to kind of have, I guess, like small group part of the time in physical spaces, but everything else has been virtual nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, luckily still the schools have been open here. My kid's been in school since September. He went, September, like right after Labor Day, he started in school.
Okay.
So that gave me a nice little daytime break because there was a point, my homeschooling skills by myself, my skill set was limited.
I hear that.
I think it had reached its peak.
Yeah. I myself am no scholastic Olympian in that regard, but you work it out. You do what you got to do.
No, exactly.
That we all do. I want to let you know before we go too far that one of my first experiences with clubbing, basically like underage clubbing, I saw you. And I believe it was, I want to say maybe like Funky Buddha or something like that. And now I'm young. So this was probably, I want to say like 2001, maybe. And I was already as a little guy. I mean, I hip hop was kind of my base, R&B and like soul, or my bases. Jazz was one of my father's bases, so I was always kind of attached to all of that. So as a young guy, like I got into Jamiroquai, like right when it was happening, you know, Soul to Soul, things like that, as a really little dude. And when I say that after experiencing your set in Funky Buddha, I kind of understood then, like the fusion, so to speak, of just all of those things that brought me to music, period. You know, that fusion, I want to say that it definitely kind of set a course. I think from that point forward, and mind you, I was mostly into underground hip hop in terms of like what I was doing and what I was creating and what I was, you know, what I knew and what I navigated. But I was always trying to pull from other spaces and, you know, not just the obvious 70s funk samples, things like that, but just always kind of trying to curate a very specific blend of sounds just from one of those first experiences, man. So I just wanted to let you know that.
That was a good year. That was, I want to say, right about when vinyl was just starting to phase out. It was around 2000-ish, 2001 when CDJs first came out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So there was that whole shift around then. But yeah, in Chicago, there was a bunch of stuff. It was a good place around then too, like, you know, Red Dog and Zentra, and some good times back then, definitely.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was the beginning for me. And I had been doing, like, I was basically in and out the open mics at the time, just, you know, that whole angle. But every now and then, like at the time I was like 6'2" and had a fake ID. So I got to, you know, move around a little bit as like 16 and 17-year-old. And yeah, it just, you know, and I was already in the record shops. Like I was DJing as early, I guess around like 14. So like I was in like Dr. Wax. You know, we called it a road trip up to Gramophone because I'm a South Sider.
Yeah.
But Dr. Wax was definitely like that was the home base, and so I was actually like going there and buying vinyl and things like that, and like, you know, picking up mix CDs and things like that. So I kind of had this, I don't know, I had this eye on what y'all were doing at the time, but I was nowhere near, you know, as sharp or as skilled to kind of navigate it or really know my way around it. But I was a young guy just kind of trying to observe and you know, I guess again, just that attention to fusions and the potential for fusions is something that has kind of driven what I've done as an artist, and then now what we're doing as Dave and Sam, you know, right now. So
yeah,
yeah. To the point, and this is actually going to kind of sound a little weird. One of my first like DJ mixtape series as a college student was called Pure White Audio, and I was not at all doing cocaine. So it was a little bit, trying to keep a little bit of hip hop edge to it, but it was basically inspired, you know, by just that titling, like Mushroom Jazz, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, I always found, I mean, Chicago in that era, like, it was hard to slow it down BPM wise in a lot of places. Like, because Chicago was always such a house town. Nobody liked it. If it went below 120, people would be like, eh. Like, you know, like, it's too slow. Like, you know, you'd have to play in like a B chill room with no dance floor or anything. But, you know, but other places geographically other than Chicago were into slower tempos, which I always found interesting when I started traveling around then. Like even, yeah, like, it was just hard in a party or a club in Chicago to slow it down unless it was like the end of the night or you're opening up, you know, and playing a little early. Otherwise it was like, you know, 125 all night, you know, like, you know, Chicago is more up tempo-y,
tense,
you know, like 127, 128.
Yeah.
Like I listen to a lot of my old cassettes. The house cassettes are a bit faster than I play now by a couple beats per minute. Like,
I think musically my sweet spot at this point in time is probably like 110. Probably 110. Clearly, you know, we get it done at 120. You know, but 110 is definitely like my personal sweet spot in terms of production, I'd say. And then if it goes a bit above that, I want it to go in the 130, 140 territory. You know what I mean? Because I grew up, you know, on footwork as well. So like that, you know, like I know what to do in that 140 space vocally as well. So
Mhm.
it got to be like either just totally pushing the tempo or kind of right in that sweet spot. So yeah, the groove. So yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that, man. What's a warm record that you can think of right now?
A
Like
warm
one of the warmest records you can think of.
The warmest, huh? That's a good question. Let me think. I mean, I was listening to old Larry Heard. You know, I've been listening to some old Larry Heard this week.
Yep.
So I could grab like some of his good old stuff. Like, I'll grab them really quick. I got them right here.
Dope. Yeah, throw it on or something. So, you know, put some tunes on for the people. Oh yeah, y'all are all in these comments. What's up? Being an abstract used to catch you at Fever and Be More. That's what's up.
I mean, I guess during lockdown, I've been discovering a lot of records where like I used to play a certain track on the record, but then didn't play a different track. So I've been discovering, you know, tunes on the records I had that I was playing like another like track on there out, and so
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, warm stuff, some good old Larry Heard.
Yep.
Can't beat that. Like, and some other remixes of his. Like for some reason, this album I didn't listen to tons until the last few months, and I was like, I mean, that's the bonus of, I mean, just being working in a store for a while.
Yeah.
We used to just buy stuff because, you know, we had like a little credit at Gramophone, so you'd buy some records, and sometimes it takes a while to digest everything, you know, or like I said, there's a specific track that we would rock, you know, off an album.
Yeah.
But even back then, like, you know, like say like a double import album was like $20 back then, you know, it was like something that not everybody would get. But if there's that one track on there, you're like, you know, only a couple people are going to have it. So you get it. So.
Yeah. No, I definitely allegedly sold bud in high school to afford vinyl. so I understand. I understand.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, Gramophone had this like little card system, like at the counter for employees. You had like a little index card where you could basically, it was like in-store credit, you know, and then your paycheck would go towards that. So you'd write down like, instead of paying for the records that day, you'd write them on this card, and then, you know, sort of make payments on it, which was like what all the employees did. But it was like a great way to be able to afford records before you had all the cash, you know, like it was. And then, you know, you get your paycheck, and I just sign it over to Gramophone. You like
basically
just give it back. Here you go. And then, like, you know, you take money off your card, and you like you put it on your card, yeah. And so that was a bonus. Yeah, I still, you know, those were the good vinyl days. Like when, you know, Derek was doing the ordering at the time, you know, and yeah, just things like, say you'd only get 5 copies of something in a week, you know, like, and then you have to wait for the next shipment. But like sometimes the record, you know, amongst employees wouldn't even make it to the shelf because you'd have, you know, 5 to 10 people like getting dibs on it before it's even, you know, before it's up on a rack, you know, in the store.
Yeah.
That's definitely one bonus of lockdown is I've been, you know, organizing a lot of vinyl that it wasn't so organized before.
Yeah. What's your organization system?
It was, I mean, you know, like first genre, like house.
Okay.
You know, I've got like Chicago section, Detroit, and then I've got like, you know, like over there, say like the whole top 3 shelves back here is all hip hop. And then the 3 rows below that is all acid jazzy stuff.
Okay.
And then like there's like another rack over there that's like soul funk, and then into like 80s, you know, industrial stuff, and then like a bunch of spoken word.
Yeah.
And like house, I've always divided between import and domestic. You know, if it was like a US record, like US records always went together, but now I've been trying to, you know, divide it by label and like, you know, and then, you know, like Masters of Work section, Todd Terry section. Like, I mean, you can kind of...
You basically like building a record shop in your home.
Yeah, pretty much. They've got like, you know, stuff that warrants either divided by label or artist accordingly. But
We got a question in the comments. On average, how much new vinyl do you acquire? This is from Catfish. Hey, Catfish, that's a little scary. Do you sell, gift, or donate any unwanted records?
um, yeah, I mean, well, I'm lucky. I never, some people I found, if you move somewhere, like that was always the I don't know, the hard thing of being a DJ. Sometimes you moved and you had to downsize your records for space. So I was lucky where I never had to get rid of a bunch of stuff to move somewhere. So I've kind of kept everything. I don't buy as many records as I used to, obviously. Like now I find I buy old stuff, or I'll buy, like, if I find a mint copy of something I beat up playing out,
Yeah.
like, like an old house thing. And used record wise, I don't sell many. Like I'm trying to think, it's been a while, even since I lived in San Francisco, where I would, brought records in to sell.
Hmm.
To, like, I think, probably was like Amoeba in San Francisco was the last time in the 90s that I, sold some stuff to, like, you're basically, doing like a clearing to get other records, basically. I just keep them and organize them. The ones I, like, the only bad records you get are some bad promos, like when you're on mailing lists in the 90s, like I would get some crappy promos that you're like, but usually sometimes selling them, you wouldn't get much for them because they're
Yep.
crappy records. So I made like a record tower with the ones I don't like. It's about yay tall of
That's
just
hilarious.
promo. And I had put like a metal piece through like I went to the hardware store and got it's like a bolt, a long
Yeah.
bolt, and just put them on that. And it weighs like a ton. I could probably kill somebody if it fell on them. But it's all bad promos that I just, instead of trying to sell them, I made this sculpture out of them.
I definitely have from my days of like going to like South by Southwest and doing that skit CMJ and all of that through the years. I have a whole stack of bad promos. Well, let me put that down before actually I offend somebody. But kind of the same thing. Like, I respect music too much to throw it away.
Yeah.
So I just kind of always collected it. So now that I've got my own little cave or whatever, and here I'll give you all a sneak peek because they usually only see one angle of it. But this is my little cave.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, now that I've kind of got a dedicated space, I try and at least still, just give them their own little nook. They got a little box under the desk.
Yeah, I mean, I got my CD, like, that was a crazy stage. The promo CD stage was a bit of a mess because you just get handed so many promo CDs,
Yeah.
at the clubs back in that 2000 to 2010 range, like, with handwriting, like some labels, some like with just little scribbles on it.
Yep.
Like, I'm like, what is this stuff? Like, I've got like boxes of stuff, like a lot of it I incorporate, like the good stuff I would incorporate into my whatever DJ zipper CD cases, but there's still a big pile of stuff and then there's a lot of bad, like, major label.
Yeah.
I think when still major labels were more involved in dance music with, like, just some bad stuff. But yeah, now I've been, like I said, if I'm going to buy stuff lately, I buy old records, like that I relearn about, old funk, soul, disco, that, because I didn't always learn about it when it came out. It's always like it's an ongoing process. You're like, oh, that's where that sample's from. So, like, occasionally maybe I'll do an order from Juno or something like that, like every couple of months.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'd do it now. There was, like, because there was a period just playing out where, I mean, like, you can't play vinyl at a lot of parties because unless you're playing for a DJ that has the love and knowledge of vinyl,
Yep.
like, it's a lost art of setting up turntables properly. So, like, you bring records somewhere and, like, it's skipping or the bass is feeding back or something, unless it's a DJ that plays vinyl in that venue regularly and they know what they're doing.
No, that makes me think of the I Love Vinyl party. Shout out to Twilight Tone and all of those guys that they were doing in New York. I used to love that. I used to love that, and they would literally bring out just crates basically and just get it down like how
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
I like it when it's done right, but there's definitely a bunch of times where they're like, bring vinyl, and you play, like shit wasn't working. You're like,
Yeah.
like, Yeah, or like yeah, just it's just a lost art unless it
No,
was, you know.
I hear that. I started out on Newmark for like TT 100 belt drives or something like that. Eventually graduated to Technics, and then basically left them behind in St. Louis to make rent and move to the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, 1200s were like currency. Like if you
Yeah,
kept them in good shape, like they didn't lose their value ever. And I mean, it was always like a holy grail though. It's like, yeah, it took me years to get, you know, like I remember like I had one friend who somehow his parents like bought him 1200s, and like he had just started spinning, and we were like, how'd you get 1200s?
out the
Like,
gate,
damn it.
out the gate.
Yeah. So like, yeah, they were always like, you know, I remember like you'd like search for someone who had them at their house so you could just go use them, like
Yeah.
just to you know, like to practice on them. Like it was like there was an entry level gap if you didn't have stuff to, you know, get access to the equipment. Like,
Yep.
so now, I mean, I think that's I guess a bonus of the whole digital age is it gives, I think, kids a little easier access to DJing than maybe, you know, it was. Like, you know, you had to have records, you needed turntables, you needed a bunch of
Yep.
stuff back then, and now you can, like, I mean, I
Pull
can
up
DJ, I don't
with
know,
a
I can
controller.
DJ on your phone.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I find now that, and I haven't like, consistently bought like vinyl. I kind of buy vinyl when I just see things that are special, and things that I really appreciate as I come across now. Every now and then, and we haven't done this at all in 2020, but my wife and I have this thing where whenever we would go on like either road trips or just go out of town to like just anywhere, any remote place, we would always try and find a Goodwill in the nearest remote town to what. So if we're going like somewhere in Michigan, then we stop in like Lansing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, something like that, just to hit a Goodwill and get dollar vinyl and just, well, we get more than that. She's not getting vinyl. She's getting clothes and all kinds of stuff like that. But I always would leave out with probably $15 of dollar vinyl, you know what I mean? And just kind of take the ride basically.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find really, most stuff that I find in there is really dope samples, but of course, you do find some classic pieces and you're like, damn, like somebody really let this sit up in a Goodwill for, $1.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, like that's my thing too. When when I was gigging normally on the weekend, I'd always get a rent a car so I could go, on Yelp, I'd find somewhere to eat and find a record store. And pretty much every town I'd, hit the record store, but, generally buying, like I said, more old stuff, like, or, like they're still rare in America. Like, gramophone still, has good
Yeah.
new records, but that's not a thing in a lot of places in the country where you can get good new, that someone that keeps new records in stock.
Yeah.
So yeah, just on Yelp. All right, where am I? I'm in Grand Rapids. Oh, Yelp, there's a record store here. That's what, like, getting a rent a car is always good because it's cheaper than an Uber, and then I can just go where I want and not have to, be picked up. So always, just get a rent a car, go eat somewhere, find a couple record stores, and so that's definitely a fun hobby. Here, there's two really good. There's a couple good stores in Dallas area where you can find good used stuff. So
What's my people are at Josie. You
yeah,
know? Yeah. Okay.
I recorded had an in store that, I mean, like a stream that aired today that I
Okay.
filmed there.
Oh, dope. Okay. Word. Yes. Well, shout out to the
Filmed
family.
it this week. But yeah, that's like,
Shout out to them. Shout out to New Math. My ties in Dallas actually, kind of connected through a few different streams. My in-laws are all in Dallas, and
oh,
then and my wife actually was living there when we first met. Well, not first met. I'm sorry. We first started like dating. I'll say because we had met prior to that. But then also our first EP, our first project as Dave and Sam.
you still
Can you
got
see
me?
me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, bet. Sorry, guys, but yeah, New Math. We did the
Yeah.
first EP with JT Donaldson, and just the serendipity of all of the people who that record found because of that. the fact that Derrick, even still with doing this record with JT, that Derrick Carter was involved, and then that just, turned into what it did. So, yeah, Dallas is very, very deep for me. A lot of love for that town.
Yeah, I'm sad JT moved to Austin. I miss him. He's a good
when did he move to Austin? I didn't even know.
It's been like over a year now.
Okay.
2 years almost. So, yeah, he was like my main, I think my best friend here in Dallas. Like, don't leave. So, but yeah, he's the man though. He's got it going on.
What so outside of the tunes that you sent me, which I am knee deep in right now, what are you working on right now?
Just more stuff like that. I'm always kind of moving stuff around. I mean, I'll show over this way. I'm still not a computer person. I'm more of gear oriented. So I got like a
beautiful setup, man.
Setup here that I do, like I'm kind of always tinkering between, having different MIDI stuff together.
Yeah.
JT is like the MPC master. So he was like sort of like I've been I was always an MPC person, but I find I got the MPC X and it's a bit more of a learning curve up from the 3000.
Yeah.
And 4000, which is like actually need to get a repair, but I used to do all my tracks on the 4000 basically.
Okay.
But then now I've been messing with, I got that Pioneer, it's covered up right now because I've been in vinyl mode, but I've been messing with this thing a lot. That DJ S1000.
Do you cop new gear or do you hunt for vintage gear for like specifics?
Yeah, I'm more of I guess I got some old stuff. I'm a fan of this series, this old Emu series. I don't know if you've seen these ever. There's like there's a purple one and a silver one, all of the same, like looks the same, and it's just pad. Like I'm not a keyboard player. I suck at piano and all that. I'm like a pad person, so I usually sync that. Like I do samples on the MPC, and then that has like a lot of keyboard sounds and stuff. There's like a rack version of that a lot of people use too. But like in terms of the single old piece of gear, I really like. I still love that thing. Like I've got the you can find them used for like $400.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not something that's super popular, and they're all discontinued. But it's a lot of fun. Like I like it because each track has 16 parts, and you could punch them in and out. So if you're making one track, it has like one or
like
two,
a sequencer.
4 bar, 8 bar. Like you can punch in and out all the parts by hand.
Yeah.
I don't like thinking about arrangement.
Okay.
In terms of like a computer sort of structuring, like this to go for 64 measures and then this. Like no, I just like to press stuff and
just feel it. Just play like a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then with that, like I got the DJ S1000 right as lockdown started. I mean, I've been trying to, just do like this less is more concept, like not to try and make the most of the tracks you have, but not go unlimited. That's what I felt like, a lot of the stuff I really love when you break it down is fairly simple, when it comes like, just drums, bass, some keys, a sample, like doesn't get all crazy. And I don't know. So I've been just using just that, like the DJ S1000. It only has, that's the only problem. Like with the MPC, you could have like four banks of sounds. You can change. With that you can only have the one bank. Like you only get the 16 sounds. Like you can't change banks. Which I'm hoping they'll have a software update at some point that will allow that. I mean, I guess the way around it is to get 2 of them and sync them up. But so yeah, I've just been doing. Sometimes I'll start a track, like it'll be like an odd vocal sample.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll just start programming some drums and then see where it goes. I don't know, but I've always been a gear person. I'm not like the stuff. If you're familiar with Homero Espinosa, who I do some tracks with,
I've been checking out the new ones. Yeah, that's
He's
definitely one of the things I was gonna ask you about was that collaboration as far as the
yeah,
series. All of
you know,
that.
he's more like he knows how to fuse. Like he's an Ableton genius, and
Okay.
knows how to fuse the two worlds together of
Yeah.
gear and computer. Where I get like if I had to do something myself on Ableton, I'd be sitting there like looking at tutorials and like, hey, how do you do that? And like,
This guy.
yeah. Whereas I could just tell him like, all right, I want let's do this, but let's have the filter change, for all these measures. He's like, all right, do the filter, and then like, then I'm recording like the filter sweeps through the whole song. It's like he's really good at. It's definitely good to have like a good engineer is
Yeah.
priceless when you have somebody who can just do what the equipment can do and do it quick. So and that's what I always tell people. It doesn't matter what you have. It's just that so you can make the equipment that you have do what you want it to do.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And honestly, I mean that speaks to the concept of mastery, right? That goes at the end of the day. There's a philosophy or there's a theory, and it's like at some point you either master the craft or you master the philosophy and the theory around it, and then if you can do that, then you should be able to apply it to any interface.
Yeah, like I mean, a lot of like there's no right way to make a track, but it's
Yep.
just trying to play on your strengths. And I don't know. I'm always the worst. I mean, I think probably everybody is their worst own critic. I would think. I mean, or your toughest critic. I'm always like,
Yeah.
like I'm bad at playing my own tracks. Out unless like someone would ask for a specific track. I'm like, I'm I'm just never like I'm not gonna play all my own tracks in my own set ever. Like that, I barely play one track. Like I don't know. It's just something I'm like weird about. Like I'd rather play someone else's track than my own for some reason. So, but it's always been I'm trying to say what was the MPC 60 I had in the like 90s, early 90s, and
Yeah.
that the Air Farina album I did pretty much all in an MPC 60 with I think with the Emu too, one of those like the purple one. So yeah, that's another bonus of being locked down is like I said, I've been organizing records and then trying to re get a sound with production. And because definitely there's when you're going away every weekend, that gives you limited studio time. Like
True.
it was always a balance because if I have gigs lined up, I'm going to do DJ homework as opposed to make a track. Which I was.
Yep.
That's like I mean I'm sure like I don't know when you're making a track, just the time goes by and like you're like I just spent 2 hours like
Yeah.
snare drums like
No, trust me, I understand. I in my hip hop space, I was the producer in our rap duo, and we got tracks from other producers, but I was the producer, and I was totally digital. Like I didn't know how to play any instruments, but was feeling my way around basically everything that I got my hands on. But because I came from DJing initially, I understood, basically the song structure and kind of had this sense of what's supposed to happen, and that's really what I let guide me. But yeah, I definitely like now that I just have kind of gotten to a space where I'm like I'm sure that I could do some dope stuff if I played around, but I'm a writer. Like I'm a writer, I'm a vocalist, and I've kind of settled into that. But the way that I get my issue off now is I'm probably in Sam's text messages and like a few of my other producer brothers, this best my best friends, like with samples or concepts, or it can be anything from like hit sample this to hey, go check out the lead melody on this record. I feel like that would go crazy at 120 BPM. So like, one of my guys that leads a jazz trio, I'm like, yo, take what you're doing right now and mess around with this DJ Rashad, and just see what you come up with.
yeah.
So that's how I get my production itch off now. But I do have one question I want to ask you. I've been scrolling through the comments, and it's pretty awesome, man. Like people have a ton of memories. People are talking about seeing you in Toronto, with a flashlight in your mouth, playing on 3 decks, killing it. People are asking when is Mushroom Jazz 9 coming?
That's kind of in the works. Like that was one of the things. Like the last one I did was in San Francisco, and I did with all the tracks. I re-edited them to make them DJ friendly, like every track, like at Homero Studio.
Yeah.
But being not traveling, I haven't, like, I can't do the edits myself personally because I don't have that skill, and we haven't. Well, I haven't tried hard, but just doing it remotely, doing the edits I want, like say in a format like this, still seems like a leap. Like I was waiting for a time where I would go to San Francisco and do all these edits at his place, because that was a big step of the last volume, because basically the whole, I mean, and like a lot of those hip hop tracks are all short. They're like 2-3 minutes. A lot of the ones I really like, you're like 2 minutes 38 seconds. Damn, like you could have made it a little longer. Like, I mean, it's a great cut, but they're like all really short, so they don't need like 28 of them or so, like for a minute. So many of those. But I ended up chopping, like extending intros, and just basically rearranged every track I got from everybody for the mix. So that's been my hold up to move forward with the next volume. But it's coming soon. I mean, I've got a lot of the tracks in the wings that I'm using from people.
Yeah.
But I've just been held up about that stuff. I'm like, well, I got the tracks, but I know I'm going to have to rework them. How am I going to do that? So, and then JT left, and that would have been my other, like, I think, he would probably have the skill to do some re-edits, whereas my editing skills on a computer are limited.
Yeah.
I would, like I said, be wasting time looking at tutorials. But, yeah, I mean, that's a bonus to, like the COVID thing, is horrible and all, but I'm pretty grateful that I've been doing it for a long time. There's like a lot of years in the bag, and like, more feel for some of the younger guys that were coming up, and that this put a pretty kibosh on a lot of, younger careers. But yeah, like being, I mean, I want to say for New Year's, this was the first New Year's I had off since like 1987, basically. Like I'm trying to think, 88, maybe 88, 87. Like I was trying to think when like every other New Year's, it's the DJ's night. You're always playing on New Year's.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever, like I would have had to have purposefully taken off a New Year's for some, reason, but I don't ever remember doing that. So yeah, it's been a long run of clubbing that, playing every week somewhere, since 1990, basically. So maybe even, 89 it all started. Like I want to say, I had a wait job that I had to give up a waiter shift in Chicago, to take a DJ shift that, made about the same money. And that was around 88-ish, 89. So yeah, it was a good long run of a lot of gigs. So yeah, like people like, I met my wife at your show, in 1993, and, we met at 8, like, which is it's a cool thing to be like a soundtrack to a lot of people's upbringings. Definitely I still, I don't know, like I still reminisce about, like clubs pre-phones, like was like, I'm glad I got to experience that. It seems like such a far off place from now. Like, I mean, I know they're here and there.
In a party and just being in it.
Yeah. Just not worrying about, like broadcasting or saying where you're at. You're just worried about getting to the party.
Yep.
And then when you look at some of the old photos where like, nobody has phones, and maybe there's like that random one person who's a photographer, like, like the one guy that always has a camera who's an actual photographer would show up sometimes to a party, and that was it. Like, or if you brought your like little disposable, like one of those, they were like yellow Kodak disposable that you'd, bring to a club, and like half the pictures wouldn't turn out. But so yeah, it was that the evolution of clubbing and stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of good times though. Yeah. And like, yeah, I used to, especially with vinyl, you need all your extra stuff. I did lights. Like I want to say it was Heather that turned me on to like DJ Heather, like using the lights for books, like with the clip on.
Yeah.
The little clip light.
Yeah.
Like was a great thing. Then I wouldn't have to like, put the flashlight in my mouth. But that was like just, yeah, so many times, you're just playing in a dark ass place with like, it wasn't. Yeah, I missed that one. Like the DJ booth used to be a dark place. Like it wasn't a feature.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't any more lit than the dance floor. It was just all dark.
Yep.
So I mean,
It's a different
I've
time,
realized
man.
though, and when I organize my records more, and which before they were just separated from, U.S. and import, putting them away was a lot easier when I got home because I just take the imports, put them up. But now once you have them organized, like now actually taking the records that I've been playing out of my, I still use like a flight case. Like I'll
Yeah.
kind of like pretend I'm having a gig if it's at home or wherever. But then putting away your records is a bit harder than it used to be. I'm like, no, I got to put it away. Crap.
I got a question that's definitely somebody shouted out Farina at Velvet in St. Louis. Word, 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 word. Um, that's so funny. Some Walmart cameras. Shout out to the audience. They're very engaged. They got a lot to say. I appreciate that. You mentioned the club photographer, which that's a whole thing. Like I in a former life, I was the club flyer guy, so I understand these roles. But you have an incredible eye for photography. When did that develop? And just is it a catharsis? Is it a hobby? Is it a passion? Is it a moneymaker? Like how do you
It's just a hobby. Like I've always, like I want to say, in junior high, like you had in Chicago where I went to junior high, they had like a photo class, and they had an actual like dark room in the basement of our junior high school, and it was. I just remember, I had a photo, and you take the photo class, and like the photo teacher was, I remember this like quirky dude, and like you'd go in the dark room and have all the formulas and stuff and develop the pictures, and my dad was into photography a little bit. Like my parents weren't into music or anything, but my dad would take pictures of stuff. Like he had like an old Pentax 35
yeah.
millimeter that he would let me play with when it didn't have film in it, and I would pretend to take little pictures. So yeah, it was just sort of a hobby always. And then then with like Instagram came up with pictures. I want to say it was like, yeah, DJ Heather was like, you should get on Instagram. I'm like, what's Instagram? Like I didn't, like I think I was just doing Twitter at the time. That was about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Somebody shouted out your Twitter too. Apparently your Twitter is lit according
oh,
to the audience.
yeah, kind of. So sort of looked at Instagram as like a little art project on the side, just to sort of. I mean, I don't really like using it to promote anything I'm doing. Like I don't want to like, and I don't like selfies and all that stuff. Like I don't want a picture of me. Hey, I'm DJing this Friday. Like, I mean, that I just like to sort of, and it was a bonus to be able to travel. So
Yeah.
when I'm driving around in the rent-a-car, you go to a record store and like look around for things to take pictures of. It just sort of evolved into that. So yeah, I've been thinking about getting a real camera, but I just always use my phone. But then because I was
Yeah.
like, there's gonna be one more thing to carry, like a camera. Like, well, I'm just
The thing I appreciate about it, and as somebody who, like I work in social media when I'm not doing music, and I appreciate the fact that you doing that, and even if you're not promoting your work or promoting your music and streams on your social, documenting like the DJ road life and essentially that perspective and that eye still takes your listeners and your viewers, your fans on a journey, of your perspective, really, which is really what they want from all of us, right?
yeah.
Like they want to be able to tap into our perspective and kind of drift, either out of theirs into ours or merge, compare and contrast their perspective with ours, and so I just appreciate that either way, I feel like you're still accomplishing even what you set out to not do, which is
Yeah.
market yourself,
I mean, and same with Twitter. Like I think, I mean, other than my various anti-Trump rants that hopefully will be over soon, that I won't have to do them anymore. I try and keep it, well, I don't know, lighthearted, like a little just old stereos and different things, like not pushing a narrative, not trying to sell anything, just trying to put something that's not complaining. And I don't know, I find sometimes, social media, there can be a lot of complaining. And like I said,
yeah.
sometimes I do that about our current government, which we won't get into, but
I know about
yeah.
it.
So,
I've said a lot.
like sometimes, you just see like sometimes some feeds, like people are just all negative on their feeds, like, and I want to stay away from that. Like try and put some color or something, like a little history, like something just different. And yeah, it seems to, and obviously I've had more free time since,
Of course, yeah.
Being locked down, but definitely just, there's with phones, you can, like when I was sitting in the airport, that's when I'd take pictures, and then sitting at the airport, I could go through them and do stuff. And that was, like I said, a bonus of, that's why I still love, renting cars, because you can go around and check stuff out. Like, oh, I see, like, I have a thing for old cars. Like I have an old Oldsmobile.
Yeah, noticed.
But like, oh, there's an old car, I'll, pull around, go back around and find a car and take a picture of it. And
no, I've noticed that. Sam's thing is tiny things. He loves it. It's the funniest thing in the world. And so when we are able to get together and, for instance, like on the European trips and stuff like that, seeing him come across these things, and it's just hilarious. He actually, even, again, in the spirit of the little things, there was a point where he was sampling crickets. He had brought his Tascam out, and he sampled crickets and turned them into percussion. I don't even remember what track he put up on, but they definitely put up on our album. But yeah, Croatian crickets, it's so.
Hey, that's that.
No, there's no limits, right? It's no boundaries, no rules.
Yeah, I like sampling weird spoken words, but I haven't gotten out in the field with a mic and recorded my own nature. I haven't gone to that level.
And the story, we probably don't have enough time to really go into that track, the story, but if you can't tell, or if you don't know, I am a huge Gil Scott-Heron fan. That is essentially like my, like the voice, the conscious in the back of my head is that, because basically my dad, who wasn't a musician, but he was a social worker, and then his kind of creative interests went into things like play, like he did his own like independent play work and stuff like that. Which happened as I got older. So I kind of got to see him building that up when I was trying to build up independent music. But he was a very philosophical dude, but he didn't necessarily say a lot, if that makes sense. And so Gil's voice said a lot in our house. Gil was just kind of narrating different things, to the point that it's like, if, one of my uncles or something is over there who was addicted to dope, and like he was kind of fed up with him, he'd throw on like the Spirits album to like encourage him to get up out the crib. You know what I mean? So just, I love what you did with that track, the story, and even of course you brought up the Trump ranting. I mean, that was essentially, I was trying to channel that same energy into into facts, and kind of do my own spin on it. So yeah,
I like how you guys tell. I like the storytelling in the music thing is.
Thank you.
Like, it's important. Yeah, it's funny with the story on Ohm. They didn't know that it was a sample. Like they didn't realize. Like wow. I'm like, wait, you didn't know? Like I thought it was so obvious. And they we send them the track. And they're like, we love it. And then they put it on the compilation. And then weeks later, they're like, that's not your vocals? I'm like, no.
They got him a letter.
I thought you knew. They're like, hopefully we won't get in trouble or something. I'm like, it was just funny though. I'm like, you didn't know? Like that was,
that's what
I was like,
because I was definitely going to ask what is clearing Gil like in 2020, but
yeah, no.
Allegedly.
Nobody's listening from the state.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
This is all hypothetical.
I don't know. Do people still get? I mean, I guess it depends what you're putting out. Like I remember when when vinyl was out, there was a bit more like you could get in trouble for stuff. I don't know. Can you get in trouble? I mean, I guess it depends how blatantly you're.
A lot of times they're able to kind of certain platforms will block certain things, and I think that's really where you get hit. So for instance, I was definitely as a hip hop producer, I was very sample heavy, and one of the last rap album I did in my former duo, the Paxsons, we did a tune where we sampled a band called The Bird and the Bee, jazz band, and I guess sampled so much of it that when we dropped a video with this, to this tune, YouTube was like, hey, that video, I'm sorry. Your music video is not going to work because you got this very large interpolation of, I was like, damn. So, yeah. And that was probably 10 years ago or 11 years ago. So, hey, I'm sure they've got it figured out. In fact, Instagram actually post one of me and Sam's videos, it will take off. Like if it's longer than 30 seconds, it will just turn off. I mean, it would just block the content and be like, you don't own this. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I did sign that away to Warner Music Group. Got it. But I created it, so I do own it still. Oh, so, you know.
Hopefully, I'm not sure if it's sometimes my studio doesn't get good Wi-Fi in here because for some reason it's like around the corner. So I don't know if it was me cutting out or what.
You got to get that range extender, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too savvy with the whole like techie internet stuff. Like that's not my.
I'll mentor you.
Huh?
I'll mentor you.
Yeah. I need a whole like I need to probably get have a line run in here with a router, but just to have it.
Yeah, no, you got to power that gear, man. One last connection that I want to make, and I think it just kind of speaks to, as we were talking, and this is something that I do in general, right? Like I try and whenever I talk to people who I haven't really talked to before, or people who do something that I'm interested in, I always ask questions, right? And I'm just, no matter where I go, it could be a security guard at a club, I'm asking about the fabric on their wristband. Like, I just always want to know these things. And so there's something I'm noticing about just the intentionality. You know, when everybody that I'm talking to, there's a certain trend of intentionality, and especially again with these concepts of fusion and borrowing ideas from here and merging them with other things, or taking a learning from here and using it there. You talked about how the dark room, you know, kind of started off this understanding and this passion for, you know, photography and this kind of respect for it, even if it wasn't necessarily like a career you know, goal per se. And when I was in high school, I also had the privilege of doing a photography class. My high school had a arts little program in it, Kenwood Academy on the South Side, if you knew that. Mm-hmm. And so in that dark room, that was when Photoshop was first hitting. And so because I was like the dark room assistant, that was how I actually became like a designer, basically. You know, like I never, or at least got into that aspect of things, which is what kind of what allowed me to navigate like Chicago hip hop and independent music spaces, was the fact that I was a designer more so than the fact that I was a musician. Like I grew into my musicianship, but I kind of got to be around it through that. But that craft was literally, you know, kind of handed to me by my teacher, basically. He's like, look, if you be my darkroom assistant, I'll give you Photoshop. And at a time when software is like $1,000 and nobody has personal computers. You know? So, yeah, so just, you know, little connection. And again, just how these moments or these little things provide sparks that kind of carry us on for decades, you know, in your case. So.
Yeah, I mean, just things you pick up along the way. And yeah, I mean, I've always found a close connection between, like, I've been into art, you know, just like I was always loved art class, and I did take design. I went to Columbia, but I didn't last super long. But I was taking design stuff at Columbia, but I didn't, you know, I stopped going there like end of sophomore year or something.
Okay.
And that was 89-ish, 88.
Okay.
Kind of right, like I think computers were just starting to be used like in that circle. So like I think I was a little early to get any access to computers, but I was always into the art, you know, like just visual stuff. And then, you know, we used to make our own flyers back then. You know, we'd be at Kinko's, you know, with scissors and cutting out letters and doing all that. And yeah, I always found like, you know, there's like an audio visual connection from, you know, that started in high school.
Yeah.
7th, 8th grade.
That's definitely how I see our music now. I mean, at this point, I would say up until the new things that I've been working on, you know, in the pandemic, like at least going into, you know, No Shade and, you know, leading up to that, I had gotten to a place where it's like if I wrote a song, I had a concept for a video for it, you know, and it was largely because I saw the video to the music. Then seeing the video would tell me what to write, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, once things, you know, happen and everything's executed and it kind of comes out a certain way, then you're like, okay, yeah, that idea still makes sense, but we're just gonna, you know, do these things. And so that's something for me. Like the audio and the visual is super duper connected. Now in the pandemic, I've found that my conceptual lens has been kind of fogged. It's been really cloudy. Like you know, being a preacher on a New York City subway, like we did in the Facts video, or like, you know, the Worth It character riding around all over LA, like those concepts, I don't have those concepts right now, but I am really interested in craftsmanship. And so, you know, just getting back to, like, again, I told you, I'm really interested in, you know, getting these virtual performances up and running and things like that, because I really want to kind of hone in on the craft of, you know, the equipment, the production. You know, my wife and I, we create merch and clothing and things like that. So just those crafts, practicing those things. Hey, I got a guest. I think one of my little elves is crashing the set. Come on in, son.
Hi.
Say what's up. Say
Hi.
This is DJ Mark Farina. This is one of the DJs that, you know how you and your sister are always trying to pretend like y'all are sneaking into the club?
Yeah.
So back when I was a teenager and I was trying to sneak in the club, I got to see him DJ years ago, and now we're making a little bit of music together. So pretty cool. All right. You coming to get me? Coming to bring me in the house? Well, with that,
You can do that in the house.
I can do that in the house? Okay. Yeah. Well, with that said, Brother Mark, I'm going to go ahead and end this. What I find is that I really enjoy talking, and I really enjoy having these conversations, you know, with like-minded individuals. I think we all need it. And
Yeah, no, I've been on a little bit of an island here. You know, I'm sort of a quiet person. Like I said, I'm not going out. I'm just a single parent, so it's definitely nice to have interaction, conversations that are a bit beyond just some text messages maybe than I might normally do, especially like I said, during lockdown. I haven't been going out. I've been sort of, and like I said, being a single parent, I've been a little overprotective about, like, you know, like I don't want to preach to friends who, like, if they're taking COVID seriously or not. So I haven't been hanging out with a bunch of people because I don't want to question, you know, like, have you been going out? You know, do you wear your mask? Like, and because if I get sick, there's nobody, you know, to take care of my son. So I've been extra protective. So yeah, it's nice to have interaction, and I appreciate your all's work, and so hope we can do it again.
For sure, brother. Talk soon, man. Yeah, don't leave me hanging.
And you made me have
for everybody that came out to warm notes. You know, again, as Mark said, you know, it might take a while, but Mushroom Jazz 9 is potentially on the way. And stay tuned for some collaborations between myself, Dave, of Dave and Sam, with Brother Mark, and even maybe some remixes that might see the light of day that, you know, Mark has blessed us with. So
have a good one. Stay safe.
All right, you too. Take care, y'all. Good night.